My name is Gabriella. I'm sitting in my car, parked in the driveway of my new, small two-bedroom bungalow on the edge of town. It's the middle of July, and the sun is hot and bright, the sky a perfect, cloudless blue. I'm looking out at my daughter, Lily, running through the sprinkler in the backyard. She's wearing a bright neon pink bathing suit with ruffles, screaming with delight. A year ago, this scene would have been unthinkable. Lily was a different child then, and so was I. I remember that Christmas day, just after the holiday. The snow was still falling outside, but inside my house, a coldness settled that I'll never forget. Lily, my 7-year-old daughter, stood in the doorway. She had a heavy black trash bag slung over her small shoulder. She looked so small and broken, her eyes seeming too old for her face. She didn't say hello. Without a word, she dropped the bag and slowly lifted her shirt. "Grandma said I'm too fat for pretty dresses," she whispered. I stopped breathing. There were purple bruises on her ribs, red stripes that looked like they came from a belt, and distinct handprints on her soft skin. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't just a mother anymore, I was a warrior ready for battle. I walked over to her, knelt down, and kissed her forehead gently. I told her to go to her room and play with her toys. Then I walked to the kitchen counter, picked up my car keys, and sat in the car in the driveway for a moment. My hands were shaking, not from fear but from pure rage. I looked at the house I had shared with my husband, Ethan, for 8 years. It was a nice, quiet house, but inside, my daughter was hurting, and I had let it happen. I closed my eyes and let the memories flood back. When I first met Ethan's mother, Victoria, I thought she was the perfect mother-in-law. She came from an old, wealthy family in our small town. Her house was always spotless, and she was well known for her charity work at the local church. She was elegant, always dressed in expensive, well-tailored clothes. But her smiles didn't reach her eyes. The first time she met me, she looked me up and down and said, "You're a bit full-figured, aren't you, Gabriella?" I laughed it off, thinking she was just being old-fashioned. I didn't realize that in Victoria's world, appearance was everything. When I got pregnant with Lily, instead of knitting booties or buying baby blankets, Victoria bought me a book on post-pregnancy weight loss. She gave it to me at my baby shower in front of everyone, saying, "We want you to get back in shape for Ethan." The room went silent, but I just smiled and put the book on the table. I wanted to be a good daughter-in-law and keep the peace. Lily was born, and she was perfect. She was round, soft, and happy. But Victoria saw her as a project. When Lily was 3, we were at Victoria's house for Sunday dinner. Lily reached for a second dinner roll, and Victoria moved the basket away, just out of her reach. "She's had enough, Gabriella. We don't want her to get heavy." "Habits start young," she said. I tried to reason with her, saying Lily was growing, but Victoria just corrected me, saying she needed discipline. Ethan, who was quiet and used to his mother's ways, just kept eating his roast beef and didn't look up. This pattern continued for 7 years. Victoria would constantly make comments about Lily's weight and what she ate. "That dress is too tight on her, maybe she should skip dessert. Are you sure she needs that juice? Water is better for her complexion." I got used to the criticism and started making excuses for her. I told myself she just wanted Lily to be healthy, that she loved her and was just strict. I was a coward, and I know that now. Lily started to change. By the time she was 5, she stopped asking for seconds. By 6, she started asking me if her stomach was too big. "Am I fat, Mommy?" she asked me once in the bath. "No, baby," I told her. "You are perfect. You are strong. Grandma says strong girls don't wiggle when they walk," she said. My heart broke, but I still didn't stop the visits. Then came that Christmas. Ethan and I had to work. It was a busy season for both of us. Victoria offered to take Lily for the week. "I'll take her to the city. We'll see the lights and buy her a nice Christmas dress." "It will be our special time," she said. I hesitated. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding the phone, feeling a knot in my stomach. But Ethan said, "It will be good for them to bond. Mom really wants to spoil her." So, I packed Lily's bag, hugged her tight, and sent her off. I was sending my lamb into the wolf's den. Now, 7 years of so-called concern had turned into bruises. The mask had finally fallen off. Victoria wasn't strict, she was cruel. She thought I was too weak to do anything about it, just the quiet wife who would let her get away with it. I started the car and drove to Victoria's house. The drive took 40 minutes on a gray highway surrounded by dead winter trees. I drove at the speed limit, trying to stay calm. I replayed the image of Lily's back in my mind, the purple marks and the handprint on her arm. When I pulled into Victoria's driveway, her house was imposing, just like her. The lawn was manicured, and the windows were sparkling clean. It looked like a picture-perfect house where bad things didn't happen. I rang the doorbell, and Victoria opened the door. She was wearing a cream-colored cashmere sweater and dark silk slacks. Her hair was perfectly coiffed, and she had a string of pearls around her neck. She saw me and her smile turned on automatically. "Gabriella," she said, "I didn't know you were coming. Did Lily forget something?" She looked behind me, checking for Ethan. When she saw I was alone, her smile faltered slightly. I didn't say hello. I just looked at her hands, those perfectly manicured hands that had hurt my daughter. "Where is Ethan?" she asked, her voice getting a little higher. "At work," I said. My voice was low and steady, not sounding like me at all. I walked into the living room. Everything was in its place, expensive vases, a white Persian carpet, and family photos on the mantel. There were pictures of Ethan and Victoria, but no pictures of me. There was one picture of Lily, but it was from when she was a baby, before she got heavy. I turned to face her. Victoria was standing by the door, looking nervous. She knew something was wrong. She was waiting for me to scream, to create a scene. But I didn't. I walked around the room, touching the back of her expensive sofa. "You have a lovely home, Victoria," I said. She was confused. "Thank you, Gabriella. Why are you here?" I stopped walking and looked her dead in the eyes. "Lily came home," I said. "Yes," she said quickly. "We had a lovely time. She was a bit difficult about her food, but we managed." "She lifted her shirt," I said. Victoria went still. Her mouth opened slightly and then closed. Her face went pale beneath her makeup. I don't know what she told you," she stammered. "She fell. She's clumsy, Gabriella. You know she's clumsy because of her weight." She was lying, using the same old insults. I walked towards her. She flinched, thinking I was going to hit her. I stopped right in front of her. I was taller than her, and I loomed over her. Then I did the last thing she expected. I opened my arms and hugged her. She stiffened like a board and didn't hug me back. I held her tight and leaned close to her ear. "Thank you for loving my daughter," I whispered, with zero emotion. It sounded like a curse. I pulled back and looked at her one last time. Her eyes were wide, trying to understand what was happening. I turned around and walked to the door. "Gabriella," she called out, her voice trembling. "Gabriella, wait." I didn't stop. I got in my car and drove away. When I got home, I went into Lily's room. She looked up from her coloring book, scared. "It's okay, baby," I said. "Nobody is mad at you. You were so brave to tell me." I sat on the bed and asked if I could take pictures of her bruises for the doctor. She nodded. I took out my phone and started taking pictures, each click feeling like a knife in my heart. I also recorded her telling me what happened. She said Victoria had said she was stealing bread, squeezed her arm hard, and then got a belt from the closet. She said I had to learn not to be a glutton, Lily said. I took Lily to Dr. Thompson, her pediatrician since she was a baby. When he saw the bruises, his face went dark. Who did this, Gabriella? He asked. My mother-in-law, I said. I need it documented. Everything. He nodded and called in a nurse. They measured the bruises and wrote everything down. This is abuse, Gabriella, he said. I have to report this. I knew. I asked for a copy of everything. When we left, I had a thick envelope with medical records and an official doctor's statement. I went home and put Lily to bed. Then I sat at the kitchen table and started gathering evidence. I downloaded call logs, printed out 7 years of emails from Victoria, highlighting all her passive-aggressive comments. I found a text message she sent to Ethan 2 days ago, saying, Lily is being difficult with food again. I had to be firm. Don't worry if she complains. She needs to learn. I put all the evidence in a box. It was a box of hate and pain, but to me, it was like building blocks for a wall to protect my daughter from Victoria. That night, Ethan came home. He was tired and didn't know what was going on. I didn't tell him yet. I knew if I did, he would call his mother and she would manipulate him. I needed to take action first. The next morning, I called in sick and kept Lily home from school. I opened the phone book and looked for a tough lawyer. I found Mr. Harris, who advertised aggressive family law. We protect your rights. I made an appointment for 11 a.m. And dropped Lily off at my sister Ava's house. Ava cried when she saw the bruises and wanted to go and confront Victoria. No, I told her. Violence is what she does. We're going to do something worse. We're going to take away her power. I walked into Mr. Harris's office. He was a sharp-looking man in a dark suit. I placed the box on his desk and told him what had happened. He looked at the evidence and said, "This is severe. Have you contacted the police?" "Not yet," I said. "I want to ensure Ethan can't stop this. I want sole custody, a restraining order against his mother, and to sue her for damages." Mr. Harris looked at me with new respect. "Smart," he said. "If we file for an emergency protective order today, we can have her served by tonight. It will freeze her out immediately." "Do it," I said. He warned me that it would destroy my marriage, but I told him, my marriage ended the moment he let his mother call my daughter fat. I just didn't sign the papers yet. We spent 2 hours going over the details. I signed document after document, feeling like I was signing a war treaty. "We will serve her, Mr. Harris said, and we will send a copy to the district attorney regarding criminal charges." That night, Ethan came home early. "Mom called," he said. "She sounded weird. She asked if you were okay. She said you acted strange yesterday." "I was cutting carrots at the counter." "Did she?" I asked. "Yeah, she wants us to come for New Year's Eve to smooth things over." I put the knife down and looked at him. "We won't be going to New Year's," I said. "Come on, Gabriella. Don't be like that. She's getting old. She just wants to see Lily." "Lily is not going back there, Ethan," I said. "You're being dramatic," he said, rolling his eyes. "It's just one dinner." I didn't fight him then. I knew in about 3 hours, a process server would knock on Victoria's door and hand her a stack of papers, and a courier would drop off a copy for Ethan. The morning of the first Sunday of the new year was cold. I woke up early, unable to sleep. I thought about what I was about to do. Standing up for myself didn't feel like a superhero movie. It felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump without knowing if the parachute would open. I got dressed in black trousers, a gray turtleneck sweater, and heavy boots. I pulled my hair back into a tight ponytail. I looked in the mirror and saw a different person. I looked tired but also hard, like a stone. I left Lily with Ava and drove to the church alone. The drive took 20 minutes, and every mile felt long. I passed the places where Victoria used to take Lily and criticize her. When I pulled into the church parking lot, it was packed for the new beginning service. I parked in the back and sat in the car for 10 minutes, watching people walk in. I saw Victoria's car, a shiny silver Mercedes-Benz, parked in the front row, in a spot reserved for church elders. I took a deep breath, grabbed my bag with my laptop, and walked up the stone steps of the church. An usher greeted me and asked where Ethan and Lily were. I told him they weren't coming. I walked into the sanctuary. The smell of old paper, floor wax, and expensive perfume hit me. It used to make me feel safe, but now it made my stomach turn. I didn't go to our usual pew. I walked to the back and sat in the last pew in the shadows. I scanned the front of the room and saw Victoria. She was sitting in the front row, wearing a navy blue designer suit with a diamond brooch on the lapel. Her hair was perfectly done, and she sat with her back straight, looking like a queen on her throne. The seat next to her was empty, David's seat. She looked lonely but also defiant. The service started. Reverend Johnson walked up to the pulpit and said, "Welcome. Today is a day of truth, a day of new starts." I almost laughed out loud. Truth? We stood up to sing Amazing Grace. I watched Victoria sing, her mouth moving as if she was in a trance. How could she sing about grace when she had beaten a child less than 2 weeks ago? The sermon seemed to go on forever. I was rehearsing in my head and checking my laptop. Finally, the Reverend said, "As is our tradition on the first Sunday of the year, we will open the floor for testimonies." Usually, the same few people would stand up. I saw Victoria shift in her seat, getting ready to stand and talk about the success of her charity committee. But I stood up. My legs felt heavy, but I forced myself. "I have a testimony," I said. Heads turned. People were confused. Victoria froze. I walked down the aisle, feeling everyone's eyes on me. I passed the third row, where we usually sat, and stopped for a second to look at Victoria. Her face was pale, and a muscle in her jaw was jumping. I walked up the steps to the stage and stood behind the pulpit. I took out my laptop and placed it on the pulpit. The Reverend looked confused. "It's okay, Reverend," I said. "I just have some pictures to share about my family." I found the HDMI cable and plugged it in. The huge white screen behind me flickered and turned blue. I took a breath and looked at Victoria one last time. Her eyes were pleading. "Don't," she seemed to say. "We talk a lot about truth in this church," I said into the microphone. "And we talk a lot about protecting the innocent. I want to show you what truth looks like." I pressed the button, and the first image appeared on the screen. It was an enormous photo of Lily's back, showing the red, raised welts and purple bruises. The sound in the room was a collective gasp. I didn't look at the screen. I looked at the people, seeing their faces turn from confusion to horror. "This is my daughter," I said. "She is 7 years old." I hit the arrow key, and the next image, a close-up of the handprint on her arm, appeared. Victoria tried to stand up, but her legs were shaking. "Reverend," she screeched. "Stop this. She's lying." The Reverend was staring at the screen, connecting the dots between the giant image of the bruised arm and Victoria's perfectly manicured hands. I hit the key again, and a screenshot of the text message Victoria sent to Ethan appeared. I pointed at Victoria and said, "She calls beating a 7-year-old girl with a leather belt discipline." Victoria was standing now, looking wild. She called out to her friend Martha, but Martha, after looking at the screen, stood up and said, "Sit down, Victoria." Victoria collapsed back onto the pew, looking small and shriveled. The room was buzzing with anger. I unplugged the cable, and the screen went black. "She sits in the front row, leads your charity, and judges your children. Now you know who she really is," I said. I walked down the steps and past Victoria's row. She looked up at me, her eyes red and full of hate. "You ruined everything," she hissed. "I didn't ruin anything, Victoria," I whispered. "I just turned on the lights." I walked out of the church, feeling the cold air on my face. I sat in